Springfield's Talk 1041. Hey, welcome everyone. Good Tuesday morning. My name is Nick Reed. I love the way that people drive when it first, I swear every season this comes up. I was thinking to myself, if this were February and we had already been through numerous rounds of snow and sleet, people would be navigating just fine. But for whatever reason, maybe it's just in my head, but it seems like people completely forget how to do it.
There was a good mixture of people out there. There was people that were going like 80, and then there was people that were going like 20. Because I take the highway.
Maybe that's what happens. Maybe people are on with the first seasonal precipitation that comes down. People go one extreme or the other. They're like, I could go as fast as I want. In fact, my wife said when she was on her way to work, she goes, these people in trucks, they're just swerving all over the place. It's like, I'm in a truck. Ice isn't slick for me, or, whatever,
Right.
Snow, sleet, whatever it may be. And then you have the other people that go 20 that also are a hindrance, and perhaps it's the marriage of the two on the roadways that cause these accidents. You could have stumbled upon it. Well, I kid you not. We left around the same time yesterday, and you headed north, and I headed south.
Mm-hmm.
And right before the Sunshine intersection, traffic was at a standstill. I was in the same place for an hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
something in front of FedMed happened. But, they had I think a utility pole got hit. And they were going fast and hit hard because one of the cars was really smashed up badly.
Well, I also was in standstill traffic, but not as long as an hour and a half, but probably 30 minutes. I was on 44, and somebody had slid off. And like how on 44 they've got kind of the big rocks, kind of like bluff style. I guess they went really, really fast too and smashed into that. So it was down to one lane because the tow truck kind of had to maneuver in there and get them out. But they looked like they were okay, thankfully.
Yep, everyone getting those sea legs as, just that first, I swear, that's the way it always is. Seems anyhow that people just go crazy, but that might be it. But you got those that are like, I can go faster than ever. Or they're, I think, frustrated because people are driving so slow, and so then they're zipping around, and those cause the accidents. And then, like I said, those people driving 20 or 30 miles an hour, and then there's the reasonable people like us.
Yeah,
perfect. We're the normal people.
Like 40, 45, 50, depending on what's going on out there.
We got Heroes Breakfast coming up Friday at Scramblers. We also have happy hour at Vineyard Market this Friday from 4 to 6, and we'd love it for you to join us at both of those. Vineyard Market, I suspect, as we did when we had our first happy hour prior to, it was just the Friday before we left for Mexico on the Great Escape, and the weather was great outside. Probably not going to be the case this time around. I'm going to guess we'll be inside. I mean, you can be wherever you want. If you want to stand outside.
Hey, they do have heaters.
They do have the heat lamps out there. Whether they'll bother turning them on, what's the high supposed to be Friday?
Let me pull it up really quick. Friday, 46.
Well, the sun's shining maybe. Got it.
And they have a fire pit out there.
Parka and mucklucks and just all set up to go. Have a hot toddy.
Yep. Just get you a blanket.
I used to, I had this idea once, and it never went anywhere, but to do an outdoor beer tasting in the middle of January or February at one of the local breweries. I just thought it'd be a fun annual tradition to do. And I don't know, do it around a charity and make it an hour long or 2 hours long, but where you are outside in the freezing temperatures, drinking beer, all for some sort of good cause. But it did never happen. Perhaps one day. But in the meantime, we will have happy hour, incredible friends over there at Vineyard Market in Ozark. We've got, the bridge is open, so that occurred just prior to the last one, so you don't have to worry about any of that construction there. All right, so want to give you some updates as the show progresses today. Tim Waltz increasingly appears as if he could be in some serious trouble here. Investigations launched into all of this, the billions and billions of dollars of fraud much of this, I mean, line in the pockets of thieves and crooks that came from Somalia, and a lot of the dollars going to terrorist activities. The problem that Tim Walz is going to be running into, and already is that literally hundreds, I think 480 some, state employees are whistleblowers on this guy. We're not talking about one or two whistleblowers that can just be dismissed or ignored. Hundreds of employees saying everyone knew that he was told about this. He knew this was going on. We have been telling him this for years, and he retaliated against us for doing so. The word was out, keep your mouth shut. Tim Walz is in charge, and the billions of taxpayer dollars are going to be funneled to these Somalian community members and to Al-Shabaab, which is a terrorist organization in Somalia, and everyone here is on notice that as long as Tim Walz is in charge, you keep your mouth shut. At some point, a number of Democrats are going to have to make a choice here. Is he really worth going to bat for? Now, the instinct, of course, particularly if you're talking about the Trump administration, is Trump is evil, Trump is bad, Trump is Hitler. So by default, whomever is on the opposite end of the battle is good. But when you have hundreds of your own employees in your state with, quote, receipts showing that he knew about this, on top of the massive COVID fraud that happened in his state, and just the guy's a joke. Tampon Tim, jazz hands. At some point, I suspect some of these Democrats, particularly the relatively high-profile ones from his own state, like Amy Klobuchar, who ran for president last time around and I'm sure is wanting to run for president again, might determine it's not in her best interest to continue to go to bat for this guy. So we'll have the latest developments on that coming up. Chuck Schumer claims that he had a press conference. He's taken the Jussie Smollett route here, claiming that he had 3 of his New York offices received bomb threats from Trump supporters. And you know how he knows they were Trump supporters? Well, because they put MAGA in the subject line. Because that's exactly what you would do if you were a Trump supporter and you wanted to threaten or intimidate or whatever. You would put in the subject line, just so you know, I'm a Trump supporter. It's just like Jussie Smollett and those guys wearing MAGA hats walking down Chicago streets at 2 o'clock in the morning deciding to randomly attack people. Chuck Schumer is not relevant enough for anyone at this point to call in a bomb threat. Maybe right after the shutdown was lifted and left-wing Democrats were furious that Chuck Schumer once again failed them to do whatever it was in their fantasy world he was supposed to get accomplished. Maybe those individuals may have called in a bomb threat, but the idea that Trump supporters see Chuck Schumer as just so relevant right now that Jussie Smollett. Latest news update.
In the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see mostly cloudy skies with a high near 41. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 27. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 47. And taking a look at Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 33.
Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Morning, Nick and Sarah. And nobody leaves early. We were talking earlier about the... yeah, I don't leave early whenever there's inclement. Well, I may, if it's really still coming down. But a day like yesterday, I don't so much because half the time on my way in, I will see literally zero vehicles.
Yeah.
I just because there is no traffic. So I don't have to worry about that so much. Now, that being said, like I said, if it's coming down and the plows are out and it's one of those, I do usually, I'll head out much earlier and plan on driving like 10, 15 miles an hour. That seems to only happen once or twice a season. Regarding my idea to have an annual beer tradition where it's outside in the middle of January or February. The outdoor annual beer tradition sounds fun, but do you really want all those people in trucks drinking beer and then getting on the road? You're going to be driving on to go home. LOL. Nitpicking details. We'll figure all that out. Streaming live, KSGF.com. I want a great homeloan.com. You got home loan needs. You have the Carrickers and their team. I highly recommend. Good folks do a fantastic job. And I really recommend it. I just actually talked to Don Carricker the other day.
How's he doing?
Nice Thanksgiving conversation. He's doing pretty darn well.
Good. I've seen him in a long time.
I haven't either. He even mentioned that, and the fact that being retired, he just doesn't feel like getting up early enough to make it over to Scramblers when we're doing the show. I don't blame him. And he does a lot of of grandchild sitting, which he enjoys quite a bit, he told me. But yeah, it was really great to talk with him. And, of course, his legacy continues on with the two Carricker sons have years now been handling everything with iwantagreathomeloan.com with their team, and you get the same great quality service and attentive care that you always have and you always will as long as they and their team are in charge. So home loans, refinancing, reverse mortgages, or just any questions you may, even you think, well, I'm trying to decide, I have $10,000 left on the mortgage and we got a 401k, we could cash it out and pay it on, is that something? I ask them those questions because they may have insight just regarding the benefits of it. I'm sure they see that sort of thing all the time. What does that look like? And that can help you make a more informed decision. iwantagreathomeloan.com. The White House released the results of Trump's latest MRI after failed vice presidential candidate Tim Walz, as well as members of the establishment media called for its release, demanding it be released. We need to see these answers because, again, this is something many of you may not know. But if you watch MSNBC or other left-wing outlets that consistently prove to be wrong about their reporting, Donald Trump has been at death's doorstep for quite some time now. He is just clinging to life. Do you know there's stories going around that it's just so clear he's lost all of his energy? Like, what are you talking about? I'm still amazed. Anytime I find myself getting exhausted and thinking, oh, this is a long day, I tell myself there's a guy who is president of the United States who is in his upper 70s that goes like 18 to 20 hours a day without rest. Because he, I suspect, finds sleeping to be a waste of time. And so he does the absolute bare minimum. And the same people who spent years lying to no credibility. Here's what I don't understand about you folks on the left. And I'm just being honest. If I had spent years trying to convince people that Joe Biden was the sharpest tack in the box, if I had made the claims that you all had been making about Joe Biden and mocking people who said that there might be something wrong with him, and then, of course, it turned out I was completely 100% wrong, either because I'm such a poor judge of that sort of thing or because I'm a liar, one of the two. I think that I would step back from publicly commenting on anyone's health at that point. If for any reason, I wouldn't want people to remember how bad and wrong I was about making those sort of judgments once upon a time. Yet you people just seem to not be bothered by this whatsoever. Doesn't bother you? Not in the least. You just go right out there and start making these judgment calls and expecting people to... I'm not saying this in order to just try to illustrate the point. I don't know that, there just hasn't been. In my lifetime, any president that is as busy and active as Donald Trump. None. At least that we have seen. I suppose you could argue that, you don't know what they were doing behind the scenes. Okay, fair enough. But can we all agree that when it comes to the things we see publicly in the exchanges with the media and jetting all across the world, meeting with 80,000 people in a day and making deals and solving decades-old wars between countries, that he's pretty busy. So the White House released his results, and they're fantastic. The establishment media obsessing about the results after Trump revealed in October that he had an MRI, which he said at the time came back perfect. This has been a sticking point for the left. And Governor Walz even used it as a retort after Trump referred to him as, quote, seriously retarded for his immigration policies. Speculation ended yesterday when White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said during a press briefing that the team was releasing the results. As she spoke, she read part of the summary from Trump's physician. I'll read it for you, and then you'll get it physically as well, she said, reading from the summary, which explained that Trump got the MRI because men in his age group benefit from a thorough evaluation of cardiovascular and abdominal health. In all, the commander-in-chief's cardiovascular imaging was perfectly normal. His cardiovascular system shows excellent health, and his abdominal image was also described as perfectly normal. So, I don't know now what happens. Conspiracy theories, I suppose. And the same people who demanded the results be released will now claim you can't believe those results, which, of course, prompts the question, then why did you ask for them to be released in the first place? How sad and disappointed they must be that the country decided this time around to pick a president that is cognitively there and healthy, a guy that we don't have to pretend. I mean, you realize how embarrassing that was? Particularly post-admission by the Democrats and the media that the rest of us were right. When you have these reports in the Wall Street Journal, for example, interviewing foreign leaders, and they're like, well, yeah, everyone knew this. That Wall Street Journal expose in which world leaders noted that they had to take turns babysitting Joe Biden. You know, some of the videos that you would see. Well, now, if you watched MSNBC and the mainstream media, you may not have seen these videos because they weren't too keen on showing them. But what you would see whenever Biden would be at a summit meeting or, whatever, some sort of NATO alliance gathering, and every event you would notice a different world leader at some point would tap him on the arm. You had the prime minister of Italy at that outdoor event where Biden wandered off and was staring off at parachuters or something and had to pull them back in. The reason that you saw different world leaders doing this is because they were assigned to babysit him, the president of the United States. You know what a joke we look like? As they knew, and they knew that we knew. They knew some of us were fully aware and willing to admit it, but they also knew that our media and the entire Democrat Party was pretending as if we aren't all seeing exactly what we were seeing. I know this is, it's a rehash, but with the Democrats, I mean, they force these trips down memory lane at times whenever they behave the way they do and demanding we need to find out what Trump's results are when it comes to his health because clearly there's something wrong with him. Okay. Yeah, we're going to follow you down that path. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Heroes Breakfast coming up this Friday at Scramblers. Warriors Journey, Delta Roofing, Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, and Scramblers all coming together to provide free breakfast for veterans between 6 a and 9 a. And then we are going to have our happy hour. It'd be great little get-together before Christmas. Holiday happy hour with our good friends at Vineyard Market in Ozark. 4 to 6, come and go as you please. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer Monday claimed 3 of his offices received MAGA bomb threats. Democrat Schumer made sure to play victim after more than a year of nonstop left-wing violence. 2 West Virginia National Guard members, of course, shot in an ambush-style shooting by one of Joe Biden's illegal alien Afghanis last week. One service member, Sarah Beckman, died. Andrew Wolf fighting for his life. Schumer Smollett, as written in the Gateway Pundit, is now claiming he's dodging MAGA bomb threats. Schumer said he was informed that his offices received 3 threats, or the threats, rather, from emails with the subject line MAGA from an email address claiming the 2020 election was rigged. Well, now, this sounds completely legit, doesn't it? Chuck Schumer said, quote, "This morning, I was informed by law enforcement entities throughout New York of multiple bomb threats that were made at my offices in Rochester, Binghamton, and Long Island with the email subject line MAGA, and from an email address alleging the 2020 election was rigged," Schumer said. Local and federal law enforcement responded immediately and are conducting full security sweeps, Schumer said in a statement. "Everyone is safe," he assured us. Oh, thank goodness. Everyone is safe, and I'm grateful for their quick and professional response to ensure these offices remain safe and secure for all New Yorkers. Do people even show up for his press conferences any longer? You're trying too hard, Chuck. Schumer added, "As I have said many times, these kind of violent threats have absolutely no place in our political system. Yes, these violent threats against Democrats have no place. Don't you understand you're supposed to be trying to kill Trump? Don't you understand you're supposed to be assassinating a conservative activist that pushed for free speech? Don't you know ICE agents are the Nazis you're supposed to be taking out? There's no place in our society for threats against Democrats. It's the Republicans we have to take out." Traffic update. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozark's first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see mostly cloudy skies with a high near 41. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 27. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 47. And taking a look at Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 33.
Chuck Schumer had a bit of a little press conference yesterday whining about the fact that law enforcement contacted him and said that there were MAGA bomb threats issued to his offices. 3 offices. The subject line was like MAGA. I was surprised they were like, "This is Donald Trump, by the way." A text message, MAGA bomb threat sounds like a multicolored, multi-alcohol New Year's Eve shot.
It really does.
Yeah. The MAGA bomb threat. Well, what would be in it? It'd have to be red, white, and blue.
Well, yeah.
So whatever would make that.
And maybe like a sparkler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's a frozen drink instead of a shot.
I don't know. That would seem a little, I don't know. I'm trying to think well, Trump doesn't drink is the thing. So you can't, I was going to say, try to think what Trump would approve of, but he's not a drinker. I guess it could be a non-alcoholic shot, but no one would want that. Regarding Chuck Schumer's office, shouldn't they have called in counselors instead of police? Yeah, they should have.
Yep, that's a good point.
Now, this is the audacity of someone like Chuck Schumer, who it clearly, anyone with a brain in their head, recognizes that it's a 90 to 99% chance that it's some left-winger doing that in order to give Chuck look, see, Trump supporters are violent too. And in the Gateway Pundit piece, it noted that it was just last week 2 members of the National Guard were shot, 1 killed, under Joe Biden's importation of Afghani programs. At a time in which the left is constantly demonizing law enforcement, ICE, Border Patrol, and National Guard. Let's not forget the way that the left has characterized National Guard. It was it Slotkin last week? Claiming that these National Guard members being dispatched, this isn't what they're used to. They're going to accidentally shoot someone. When they were being utilized in order to make the streets safer for people in California, it was Maxine Waters who showed up asking, "Are you going to start shooting people?" So Democrats have been actively out there portraying these individuals as a danger, as Nazis, as individuals that might start. How many times have we been told Trump is using the military against civilians? Well, what do you think is going to happen when your nutjob supporters who believe this crap that you peddle believe it? They, of course, know, because consistently they have seen the results of their rhetoric. To that point, New York Post, and this isn't a brand new story, but I thought it was relevant given Chuck Schumer complaining about a bomb threat that supposedly came from a Trump supporter issued to his office, and how there's no room for this sort of rhetoric. None. Since Democrats began targeting National Guard, ICE, and Border Patrol with their rhetoric and calling them Nazis and accusing them of zip-tying kids and disappearing people, assaults, specifically on ICE agents, have increased by 1,150%. That's so far this year compared to the last year of the Biden administration, with nearly 250 separate attacks by left-wing activists recorded since the rhetoric began. The disturbing surge comes amid a climate of heightened danger for immigration authorities, including stalking, death threats, online doxing, outright assaults, which the Department of Homeland Security noted as being encouraged by left-wing politicians. Of course, we all know this. Tricia McLaughlin, who is the DHS Assistant Secretary, noted, quote, after months of Democrat politicians comparing ICE to Nazis, the Gestapo, slave patrols, and even encouraging illegal aliens to resist arrest, our brave ICE law enforcement have been assaulted 238 separate times. Our law enforcement officers have had Molotov cocktails and rocks thrown at them, been shot at, had cars used as weapons against them, and been physically assaulted. Sanctuary politicians need to tone the rhetoric down before a law enforcement officer is killed. See, the problem is, and I'm just going to be frank with you, they're fine with that. They have lost the right to claim that they don't want people in law enforcement harmed. They have lost the right, or I should say the credibility. They've got the right to say whatever it is that they want to, but they've lost the credibility to claim that they don't want people who are patrolling and protecting our borders. They don't want ICE agents attacked. They don't want these people's lives put in danger because they know that there has been a massive increase in these attacks subsequent to their verbal rhetoric. Even if you want to live in a world of denial and tell yourself that there's absolutely no connection between you calling these people Nazis and accusing them of zip-tying children and all these other horrible atrocities and the people who attack them because they believe those things. If you want to, even if you want to live in denial, if you really truly cared about their safety, if you really truly did not want these people to be attacked, don't you think just to be on the safe side, you'd cut it out? Not only do they not cut it out, they increase the rhetoric because they know what they're doing. I think part of what protects the Democrat Party at this point is the fact that it is almost impossible for most Americans to believe that they actually are intentionally doing this. It is inconceivable to most Americans, and I suspect to even a lot of Democrats, that elected officials would knowingly attempt to put these people in harm's way. But it is denial. It is completely unavoidable to recognize the reality and the absurdity of this notion that there is absolutely no connection. It would be one thing if you had Democrats claiming that these people were Nazis, disappearing people, abusing kids, so forth. And then you had a 1,500% increase in attacks, but consistently the people attacking them said the reason that they were doing it is because they thought that they were demon sea creatures who came from a crevice out of the bottom of the ocean. You would think these people are crazy, but you wouldn't connect it to Democrat rhetoric because that's not what Democrats are saying. The problem is these individuals, when they do it, they use the Democrat talking points. They say it's because we're saving democracy, or we have to stop the Nazis, or they're disappearing people. You cannot legitimately recognize the reality of what is going on and claim that Democrats don't know exactly what they're doing. And while not every Democrat is actively participating, I don't hear any calling them out. And at this point, it means you're in it. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Ozarks Elder Law, the ladies in white, making sure you, your family, your decisions, your wants, your desires when it comes to those difficult life or death decisions are in your hands and not the hands of random folks, bureaucrats, government. I saw a posting from a friend of mine who is currently going through a situation with differing opinions as to the potential end of life for a loved one between the family and the caretakers. And I have no idea who's right. Sometimes there isn't a right, there isn't a wrong. Sometimes you just have differing opinions. But what I do know is that most people want to be able to make those decisions for their loved ones and not have it out of their hands. And if you believe that, well, I'm the son or it's my child, and, you know, if the child's over the age of 18, hospitals can defer to you. They don't have to. But we're married. So that means I have medical power of attorney to make all of those decisions over my husband and wife. It doesn't work that way. To the shock of a lot of people who don't know it until it's too late. What do you need to do? Whether it is medical power of attorney, it is taking care of somebody who has special needs in your family, or just what occurs when it's time for you to go into an assisted living facility. How does that get paid for? There's so many things that if it's planned ahead can avoid heartbreaking disaster, and that's where Ozarks Elder Law steps in. Consultation doesn't cost you a thing, 10 area locations. And then they'll tell you ahead of time, one price, here's what it's going to cost in order to get done what needs to be done. OzarksElderLaw.com. You can find them under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. Regarding the suggestion that MAGA bomb threat sounds like an awesome shot, particularly around New Year's Eve, and we were talking about, well, it would have to be red, white, and blue. And I was trying to think, well, what would Trump like? And then I realized Trump doesn't drink alcohol. But somebody did know. And this is so obvious, I can't believe that... that only one person texted this in. At the same time, brilliant. Whatever the drink is, it clearly would have to have ice in it.
You know, maybe
I was like, how did I not think of that?
I feel
It's
like
brilliant.
I was kind of on the right track because I said it kind of needed to be a frosty drink.
Yeah,
With like
so crushed ice.
Sparkler. Yeah. So we were all on the same page.
Yeah,
I like,
you were getting there.
Like that,
yeah.
bro. Gotta have ice in it.
Mm-hmm. All the way to the top. Lots and lots of ice. Yeah. There is a story from Breitbart. Church nativity display includes zip-tied baby Jesus. We're right back to the first Trump administration, in which you have these left-wing organizations that portray themselves as virtuous by pretending to be a church. Pretending to be a church of God. I suppose that they are a church in terms of a congregation and a building and taking collections. Their lack of consistency and care for what they determine to be victims, however, demonstrates that they are dishonest people. I recall walking through a neighborhood in Memphis during the first Trump administration, and there was a church, and it was a similar display, but it was in a cage. It was baby Jesus in a cage because suddenly left-wing churches cared about baby Jesus in a cage. Now, the cage is built by the Obama administration, not a left-wing church inside protesting that. Because they're not about the truth. They're not about the victim. They're about Democrat worship. They don't worship God. They worship the Democrat Party. Which is why if the Democrat Party is putting kids in cages, those churches have no trouble whatsoever. But if the Trump administration carries on that practice, suddenly it's the worst thing ever. When you had the Biden administration, or any of these administrations that are Democrat, deporting people, separating families, when you had Joe Biden literally sending underage kids to strip joints, one of which was discovered in Florida. This is where these unaccompanied minors were being sent. It was clearly human trafficking. Hundreds of thousands of children disappeared in this country. You know, you see these stories in Nigeria that get international headlines, not as many as they should, but where you'll have a school of 200 kids up and disappear, yet hundreds of thousands of children disappear in the United States under the Biden administration. Not a peep, not a headline, other than, you know, crazy conservative right-wing discussion boards, websites, talk radio. These left-wing churches don't care about those kids. So you have to be the right kind of victim for liberals to care about you. These left-wing church, this one is a Lake Street Church of Evanston, wherever that is. They don't care about you unless you can be used as a tool against their political opposition as a sacrifice to their God, the Democrat Party, or Fauci, or Obama, or whomever one of the many gods they're serving that day is. And the fact that they are the only consistency they display is based off of which political party is in charge. Consistently, they give a pass and praise Democrats whenever they carry out these policies, and consistently, they criticize and ridicule Republicans when they carry out the exact same policies. Because they're dishonest, and they are not churches of God. They are churches of the Democrat Party. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. I was looking for this particular segment of this piece in the News Leader. Undocumented mothers in Missouri navigate pregnancy amid ICE threats. And it goes through and it lists all these stories. Now, of course, the stories are based off of the, quote, victim's word on the situation, which may come as a shock to you, but oftentimes people who come to this country illegally and display honesty when it comes, or dishonesty when it comes to their immigration status, they don't always tell the truth when it comes to their immigration status. Every once in a while, they fib just a little bit. But if you're the media, you don't ask any questions whatsoever. You just run. You just run with it. Absolute truth, no questions asked. And I thought to myself, as they go through these stories, oh, this person over here and this is what happened, and this person over here and that's what happened. Wouldn't it be nice if the News Leader did something similar for people in law enforcement that have been targeted, who have been attacked, who have been murdered because of the anti-immigration enforcement left-wingers in this country? Wouldn't that be nice? See, we're not supposed to care about those people. In fact, the only illegals that seemingly we're not supposed to care about are the two that were accidentally killed by a left-wing activist that was trying to kill ICE agents down in the Dallas area several months ago. Just be a nice, different perspective on things from outfits like the News Leader. Springfield's Talk 1041. I am Nick Reed. Welcome to the show, everyone. I was mentioning this piece in the news leader, undocumented mothers in Missouri navigate pregnancy amid. It's like they sat around, they're like, what is the most sympathetic possibility we could ever even conceive of here? How about undocumented, aka illegals, who are navigating pregnancy? Oh, a pregnant mother, yes. And let's tell all these stories. Now, what they don't tell are stories of the men and women who sign up to defend the country and who are being attacked because of the rhetoric because of stories like this, frankly. Stories that portray these individuals as people who had no other choice for whatever reason, could not make the same choice that hundreds of thousands of people make every year to legally come to this country. No, none of that was available to them. Oh, they're just the most innocent people ever. Oh, they're good. And that increases people's hatred and anger towards these individuals, and it increases the violence towards them. Now, we don't care about those people, however. I thought this one, let me just read it to you so you get a sense of what I would argue is somewhat morbid and twisted, quote, sympathy. This is one of the many stories that they share. In just a couple days, Monica is self-deporting. Well, good. First off, she purchased a one-way flight from Kansas City back to Chile, where she is from. Her 6-month-old son will be on her lap. Monica, who asked not to use her name because she's undocumented. Well, if she... This is how, again, not a reporter. It's very difficult for me to read through this without noting all the holes in it. If she is self-deporting, why is she worried about using her real name because of being undocumented? Nonetheless, she moved to the United States on Mother's Day last year. Oh, even more precious. Seeking better education opportunities for her son, who is 8. She learned she was pregnant a couple of months later. She was sad to be experiencing a new life without her friends and family by her side. Again, this was her choice. When she was less than 2 weeks postpartum, Monica said her husband became violent during an argument. She called her therapist, who reported the abuse to police. He was arrested and deported back to his home country of Venezuela. Now alone, Monica can no longer afford to care for her 2 children on her own. So, evidently, it was much better for her to stay in an abusive relationship. We're supposed to feel sorry for her because she's not coming home every night and getting clocked around the living room because, at least she has a place to stay. This is the twisted sympathy in the minds of people on the left. I don't want to say the only way it can be explained, but it's almost as if people on the left don't really see these as human beings, and so being in an abusive relationship for them, well, that's just the way of life for those people. Because if you notice consistently, so many of these individuals that the Democrats rally around are abusive towards women. That Obrego Garcia guy was, one of the more high-profile individuals that Democrats turned into some sort of celebrity. Twice his wife went to get a restraining order against him because he was so abusive. And you had, I think it was Van Hollen, the Democrat senator, it was one of them, that proudly declared he was going to make sure that her abusive husband was able to come back into the U.S. to live with her again. I guess so he could knock her around. And they treat the abuse of these women as if it's just not even an issue. Even this news leader, it's just, the poor husband, what's she going to do now? Her husband got deported because he beat her, and so, gosh, she's really in a bad position now. how awful that her abusive husband was deported. And the only logical explanation is that people on the left just don't see these women, like when they're the victims of abuse, as the same as when, I guess, a white woman's abused. And I suppose it makes sense because when you listen to the left talk about these individuals, they talk about them as if they are in a lower class. Well, we have to have them to do the jobs we don't want to do. In fact, one of the trends from left-wing women, specifically on social media, is sending a warning that when these, quote, people are deported, that these jobs they do, they're announcing to the world that they won't be doing them. That you're going to go without your housekeeping, you're going to go without your hotel room cleaning and all these other jobs, because if you expect us to step in, those aren't jobs we'll do. That's for the brown people. These are left-wingers, and you've heard it. How many times have people on the left said, well, if you deport everyone, who's going to clean your toilet? Who's going to do this? And that is so insightful regarding how people on the left view these individuals. They are the help. It's the same rationale they used to argue for slavery. If we free the slaves, who's going to pick the cotton? If we free the slaves, who's going to work the fields? The Democrat Party uses the same argument today. And it's sad how so many of these individuals you realize are in abusive relationships, and that is just so irrelevant to the left. Other than their apparent disappointment that their abusers get deported. Such compassion. Got weather coming up in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see mostly cloudy skies with a high near 41. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 27. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 47. And taking a look at Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 33.
Yeah, I keep putting it off because Christy Fulnecki will be joining us on Thursday, but I mean, there's no need to hold it off to talk about it. I mentioned yesterday that one of her kids, Samantha Fulnecki, which she had actually talked about this last Thursday or the Thursday before, that she was having a real battle with the University of Oklahoma because of her trans professor giving her a 0 on an essay, and this is. Samantha has been fighting back on this, and it has gotten to where, I think it was yesterday, Daily Caller had a piece, Breitbart has a piece on it. It is the top story at foxnews.com right now, and so she's definitely she's drawing a lot of attention to this. Did you watch her interview? I know she did an interview on one of the shows on Fox.
No, and I was actually chatting with Christy, and hopefully this is okay to mention it, but I'm going to do it anyways. She's going to be on the Will Kane show today.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Excellent. And that's at 3 o'clock, right, on Fox?
Christy said 4 p.m., but she said, I don't know if that's Central or Eastern.
That's Eastern because the 5 is on at 4.
Okay.
The 5 comes on after Will Kane does. I would say she should know better, but I think she records all of that stuff and watches it back later. But
she'll be on the Will
Healy
Kane
didn't.
show.
Okay, yeah, excellent. I wonder if she'll get on Jesse. See, I was thinking Jesse Waters would be a great one if she hasn't been on there. Now, if she gets mentioned on Greg Gutfeld's show, like during monologue or something, then she really made it.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing. Do you think that this is going to get enough attention that the bigots on the left, like the Jimmy Kimmels and others, will mock her?
Ooh. Well, I don't know.
That's a good point. Whether they'll ignore her.
I've read quite a few incredibly hateful comments on this, so maybe so.
Yeah, if they can figure out an angle that won't make them, in their minds, appear too bigoted. But she's clearly not a left-winger. And anytime a woman displays independent thought that is out of step with the left, the left hates that. They have to make an example of where you're supposed to be if you're a woman. And that combined with the fact that she has a Christian perspective, the bigots on the left, there's a lot to target her. I'll read to you from, I mentioned a number of different stories. The Breitbart story, University of Oklahoma student said her psychology instructor gave her a failing grade on an essay in which she cited the Bible in violation of her First Amendment rights. The school now says it has placed the instructor, a man who claims to be a woman, on administrative leave while it investigates the matter. Samantha Fulnecki received 0 points out of 25 on her essay writing that traditional gender roles should not be considered stereotypes, in response to an article about how people are perceived based on societal expectations of gender, according to a report by the Oklahoman. In her essay, the student reportedly cited the Bible to support her stance that eliminating gender in our society would be detrimental as it pulls us further from God's original plan for humans. Instructor Mel Kurth, reportedly a man claiming to be a woman, claimed Fulnecki failed to use empirical evidence, even going as far as calling parts of her essay offensive. Fulnecki, however, pointed out that the assignment did not require the citation of empirical evidence, adding that she believes University of Oklahoma policy protects free speech, even if some people find it offensive, and that she was failed because she cited the Bible, quote, to be what I think is clearly discriminated against for my beliefs in using freedom of speech, and especially for my religious beliefs. I think that it's just absurd, she told the Oklahoman. She should have thrown in being a Native American. She should have thrown that in there as well. In her essay defending traditional gender roles, she cites Genesis, writing that God said, but that's what the whole point of this was, to be a response to another opinion piece that was written. And so that this is the point of this. It is to, here is, what was look at the Fox News story, because they talk a bit more about what the article they were to respond to. So the students were asked to read an article and give their opinions on the article.
Do you want her actual
I've got it.
Okay.
But
Sorry.
but no, I was one. So the article that she was responding to was relations among gender typicality, peer relations, and mental health during early adolescence. Summarizing results of a study about gender norms among middle schoolers and social ramifications children may face for not conforming to gender norms. And so it was supposed to be a response to that. And that's what she did. Hers was biblically based, which, as somebody who adheres to Christian principles, in all likelihood, are that's going to be very common. And while again, some may say, well, as did the trans professor, well, you didn't provide empirical evidence. That wasn't part of the assignment. In her essay, Defending the Traditional Roles, Fulnecki cites Genesis, writing, God says that it is not good for man to be alone, so he created a helper for man, which is a woman. Many people assume the word helper in this context to be condescending and offensive to woman. She further pointed out that the original word in Hebrew is ezer kenegdo, and that directly translates to helper equal to. Additionally, God describes himself in the Bible using ezer, kenegdo, or helper, and he describes his Holy Spirit as our helper as well. Quote, God does not view women as less significant than men. He created us with such intentionality and care, and he made woman in his image of being a helper and in the image of his beauty, she wrote. If leaning into that role means I am following gender stereotypes, then I'm happy to be following a stereotype that aligns with the gifts and abilities God gave me as a woman, the student added. Now, just those excerpts, and so this is to me the whole point. It is a perspective that is different. And it is citing the foundation for that perspective. Call me crazy, but this is really what you are supposed to be doing, particularly when demonstrating thought. You are provided with an assignment. Here is an article. Here is a piece. Give your response to this. Agree, disagree, whatever it may be. And in doing so, she is citing the foundation for her beliefs. That seems like what we should be doing in the universities. But I think what we're observing here is what, sadly, universities have become. And it is not how to think. It's not what is your perspective and explain why you believe these things. But instead, these are the things you are supposed to believe. And these assignments are more of a litmus test to see if you believe the correct things. And if you don't, you get a 0. And that appears to be the situation that Samantha Fulnecki is dealing with. The University of Oklahoma responded to the matter in a Sunday X post saying it takes seriously concerns involving First Amendment rights, certainly including religious freedoms. Upon receiving notice from the student on the grading of an assignment, the university immediately began a full review of the situation and has acted swiftly to address the matter, the school said. The university went on to say that it acted immediately to address the academic issue, contacting the student, quote, on the day her letter was received, and have maintained regular communication throughout the process. A formal grade appeals process was conducted. The process resulted in steps to ensure no academic harm to the student from the graded assignments. The school added that it has a clear process for reviewing claims of illegal discrimination based on religious beliefs, adding that the process has been activated. And based off the information that's provided thus far, I would argue that this is religious discrimination, given that they were told, give your assessment, your response to this particular take in this article. And when she did it from her religious perspective, was told that that doesn't count. That seems pretty discriminatory. The graduate student instructor has been placed on administrative leave pending the finalization of the process. The university revealed to ensure fairness in the process, a full-time professor is serving as the course instructor for the remainder of the semester. OU remains firmly committed to fairness, respect, and protecting every student's rights to express sincerely held religious beliefs, the school added. And then it goes on to talk about University of Oklahoma Turning Point, and they weighed in on it as well. Saying that we at Turning Point OU stand with Samantha. We should not be letting mentally ill professors around students, the chapter asserted. Clearly, the professor lacks the intellectual maturity to set her own bias aside and take grading seriously. Professors like this are the very reason conservatives can't voice their beliefs in the classroom. You think about this really is an anomaly, and we've heard so often students that cater their papers to what their professors want them to say. I've heard this so many different times, that students get it. They figured it out. Or like the what do they call it? When you're trying to get accepted, you got to write a paper into, some of these Ivy League universities. And students have learned you just have to pretend you're a left-winger. And so they're not giving their actual, it's not generally a demonstration of their actual thoughts, but instead regurgitating what people on the left need to feel in order to be validated. And that's what people are spending tens of thousands of dollars to send their kids to. And most students also don't want the hassle. They work really hard. They will, or those that do work really hard, they don't want to jeopardize what they see as potentially their future because of a bad grade given by some left-wing lunatic that's given a professorship. And so they don't actually do a thought piece or demonstrate their ability to think, but instead regurgitate the left-wing talking points in order to get the grade. And it's rare that you have somebody that comes along that just, and I'm telling you, I suspect, I don't know Samantha, well enough to say I know who she is. I've been around her, obviously, being part of the Fulnecke family, and we're all friends and so forth. But I suspect that this was not a difficult decision for her. This was just instinct. And some of that, I suppose, is just knowing her mother. This apple appears to not fall very far from the tree. Would you agree?
I agree.
Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. All right, I'm going to give you just a basket full of notations here, some programming notes. One, Friday, we will be broadcasting live from Scramblers. It will be the Friday Road Show. In addition to that, we will have free breakfast for veterans. That thanks to Delta Roofing, Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, The Warrior's Journey, and Scramblers. Then, in the afternoon, from 4 to 6, come and go as you please, we will be having our happy hour, holiday happy hour. That will be at Vineyard Market, which is in Ozark. It's just right off the highway. If you know where Lambert's is, it's that same exit. You can go to ksgf.com, get details for that. Now, Santa's Angels is currently underway. And this is, I know many of you obviously familiar with the program. Our friends at Wheeler Metals is the lead sponsor of our annual event along with KVC Missouri to get some of these kids that don't have families gifts for Christmas. We have location sponsors in which we have trees that have the little kid ornaments on them. You grab one, it's got the kids' info on it as well. Now, Crown Power and Equipment, Greene County Freight and Food Sales, Pinnagar, Chevy, and Republic are all sponsor locations, as well as Mexican Villa. But we've got to see if Mexican Villa, I was informed they have run out of kids to be adopted. So we'll see if we can either get some more on there, or that may just have been 100% success right out of the gate already, which is a fantastic thing. So huge thank you to Mexican Villa. Also at KSGF.com, Guns N' Roses going to be at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena Saturday, September 12th, this Friday at 10 a.m. Another Friday notation. You can buy tickets. That's when they become available, or you can register to win some now at KSGF.com. And I also wanted to mention the Godfather's Pizza Teachers Lounge Pizza Party. This is an opportunity for, if you work in the school district, you don't have to be an actual teacher, but if you have access to the Teachers Lounge, then you can get yourself registered. Instead of kids always get the pizza party. This is Godfather's saying, hey, we're going to do a little bit of a twist, and instead of the kids, you who work in the schools can register to win. And if you win, then Godfather's Pizza will provide some pizzas for the Teachers Lounge. Or you can just keep them hidden away if you want. Take them home and freeze them and spend a year eating on them. It's well worth it. Godfather's Pizza is some of the best that you'll find. All that at KSGF.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozark's first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see mostly cloudy skies with a high near 41. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 27. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 47. And taking a look at Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 33.
Reading, let's see, some of your comments. We're talking about Samantha Fulnecki and the a full coverage she has been getting in her battle, if you will, at least against one professor. Oops.
Now,
sorry about that. I accidentally hit an unnecessary button there. My apologies.
Right, what were you saying?
Back to what I was saying before that distraction. We're talking about Samantha Fulnecki, which is one of Chrissy Fulnecki's daughters. She's Oklahoma University, and she was tasked, as other students were, with giving a response to a paper that was written, an article on gender, and she gave hers, and the trans professor, which had given a gender ideology assignment, essentially said, well, you're wrong. That doesn't count, and gave her a 0. So the complaint was filed, and this is something that the school has been dealing with, saying that it's dealing with, and it has taken steps to make sure that Samantha's, she doesn't suffer academically because of this, as I understood their statement. And this has gotten a lot of attention. She's been interviewed Fox News, and Breitbart had an article I read from. Someone said, I'm getting hate replies, and I only made one positive comment to Samantha for her excellent article, and people are all over me.
I believe it.
Well, yeah, but that's what they're driven by. They have, you see this virtually anywhere that people who are thoughtful individuals, thinkers, and I don't even mean great or brilliant thinkers, just thinking, the ability to think. And they go to these different left-wing events and they just ask simple questions. Very basic, simple questions. And the people who are of the left, they can never answer the questions. And it is genuinely because, when I say they can't think, obviously they can think to some degree. Like, you're hungry, you eat. You hear a knock at the door, you answer it. All right, so your brain is functioning in that capacity. But the ability to understand things, to comprehend arguments, to articulate your own belief system, that does not exist with so many of these individuals because they are the opposite of what somebody like Samantha Fulnecke is, and they are simply regurgitating what they have been told is the right way to think. And that's why it is that they are incapable of articulating a defense of their perspective or countering an argument that is opposed to their perspective. They don't have that ability. This is why they name call. This is why they will say, well, you're transphobic, you're this, you're that. It's because they can't put up an argument. And when I say that, it's not even because they're wrong, though usually they are. It is because they have been trained to not think. They have been trained to simply regurgitate talking points. Well, if that's all that you know, then you can understand why it would be very frustrating to have somebody ask you questions that are probing and challenging, that require you to think. So that's their only go-to, is to call you names, say hateful things to you, and that's exactly why it is you get what you get on the left. Another text, the real tragedy of universities is that they hold certain professors hostage, meaning you have to have a degree in a certain field in order to become a certain professor, so it forces you to go to a school that offers certain discipline. That's not true for all professions, but it is for a lot of them. So they're gatekeepers to a job, forcing you to conform and learn what they want you to learn in order to get the job that you want. And amongst the worst are teaching universities. This is one of the really massive problems that we have in this country, and that is that the universities, the schools that people must go to in order to become a teacher in the public school systems are run by left-wingers that indoctrinate. That's why it's such a huge source of the problem. It would be incredible to have, though I suppose, I don't know how it works in terms of, I'll be honest, who determines what universities are allowed to provide what degrees for what professions. I suppose some of that depends on your status, whether you're a university or a college, so forth. But what would be so beneficial, though it would be long-term, is to have so many of these different universities, whether it's like Hillsdale College or Turning Point USA, form universities, develop colleges that provide teaching degrees so that there is an alternative, so that if you are somebody that wants to teach young people, you are not forced to go through indoctrination centers in order to be able to teach children. Let's see another. It's very important to remember that there's no difference in the value of the souls of men and women. Quite honestly, the person is not alive that knows the true value of his or her soul. As far as the roles of men and women, they are complementary to one another. What a wonderful gift that it is to mankind. You know, this is the real sad thing about it. And I believe it's one of the reasons that you find so many people, particularly women on the left, that are so miserable, is because truly there is nothing that matches finding that other person to be in a loving relationship with. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't other things in life that can't be or that, you know, aren't rewarding. But there's certain things you can't match. You can't duplicate in terms of satisfaction, in terms of fulfillment. I would argue having a child, that's something that, which is all part of this discussion, but you can't know what that's like. There are certain things that you can't know what it's like unless you've experienced it. I'd say being in war would be one of those things. Now, that is in a negative way. That is the sort of experience that most people would not want to have, that most people would not want to know what it is like. But on the more positive side of things, anyone who has a child will tell you that there's just nothing in life that replicates that experience and that feeling and that connection. And I would also say that that applies to finding that person that you fall in love with and that you have that family with, that you can rely on. And it doesn't mean that, and this is what I think also a lot of people on the left don't understand, is that doesn't mean that it's a perfect relationship and a perfect marriage and that you always get along and everything's wonderful. In fact, part of that amazing experience through life is some of the difficult times that you made it through, that you look back on and you think, man, I didn't think we were going to make it, and you made it. And this deliberate effort by people on the left to dehumanize people, to take away from human beings these scenarios, these life experiences as a human that cannot be replicated, and to convince you that they're actually bad things. To convince you that it's part of some sort of patriarchal system that was set up by these people in order to control this and that. No, it's not. Basic science tells us that. I mean, ultimately, if we didn't have all of that, we would cease to exist. But fortunately, because we have souls, it's an enhanced experience for us as opposed to animals. And I think it's one of the most cruel things that you can do, given that we have one life. And to take two components of of that life that are indescribable, and that is falling in love with someone that falls in love with you and spending your life with them and then starting a family with them and to have that family unit. And to convince yourself and to convince others that you don't want that's not. And listen, some people may not want, some people are perfectly happy fully alone, living isolated by themselves. And sure, do whatever you want. But it's these people who try to convince people that that's what they should have, that is where happiness is, that you shouldn't, quote, rely or be looking for someone else. It's instinct for a reason. And it's such an amazing thing, as the person texted in, that we get to experience as mankind, and to convince people to spend their entire lives without it, deliberately. What a sad thing. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Happy Honda Days still underway at Pinnaker Honda. Don't miss out. Got to get rid of the 2025 models. No payments for 90 days on new vehicles. So at this point, that means until March. That's a long time. We'll be peaking at spring by then. The 2025 Honda Pilot, $1,500 sales credit rates as low as 3.49%. No payments until March. 25 Ridgeline, $3,000 sales credit, 0.99%, no payment until March. 2025 Honda Accord, as low as $329 a month. 25 Honda Accord Hybrid with financing as low as 3.99% and up to 51 miles per gallon on the XL model. Incredible gas mileage there. So there are also a couple great leases on the 26 models. Basically, there's a whole lot to be had. So if you were even thinking, oh, wait till after the first of the year, we're going to wait until spring in order to make that purchase. Well, you can make the purchase now at Pinnaker Honda and not make a payment till then. You can visit them, stop by South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. They're great people, very friendly. And, of course, you can find them under Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. Well, I'm sure, did you hear the news? The Black Friday, spending billions of dollars, stores online. It was like, by all accounts, it was record-breaking spending.
But what about the National Blackout the System Day?
That's exactly what I wondered. Now, that was the day all of these Democrat activists were going to prove that they were in charge of the economy. And they were going to show all of us, including the Trump administration, MAGA America, all of these massive corporations, that without them, we would be in a sorry state of economic affairs. Yet somehow the opposite actually occurred.
They really showed us.
Yeah, they really once again, it's just another opportunity. They really did it. This is pretty standard, though, for the left, and that is to take on some sort of endeavor that doesn't actually do anything meaningful. Adobe Analytics, which tracks e-commerce, said U.S. consumers spent a record $11.8 billion online Friday, marking a 9.1% jump from last year. Traffic particularly piled up between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. when 12.5 million passed through online shopping carts every single minute. You guys, you failed. Consumers also spent a record $6.4 billion online Thanksgiving Day itself. Top categories that saw an uptick in sales across both days included video game consoles, electronics, and home appliances. Shopping services powered by artificial intelligence and social media advertising also particularly influenced what consumers chose to buy, the firm said. So I guess I know the answer to this because I understand to a large degree how people on the left operate. But oftentimes whenever there is some sort of effort that is planned ahead of time, and then there is a set goal in mind, afterwards you do sort of a get-together and let's evaluate how we did. Let's talk about what we did. Let's talk about what the results were, if we were pleased with the results, and if not, what should we do next time in order to make sure that we are more successful or as successful, depending on the level of success determined with the outcome. And you wish that some of these people would actually do that. I would love for the people who organized this entire endeavor and were putting out there that the stated goal was to really stick it to the U.S. economy, to make the world see. So the world would go, oh my gosh, what happened? Even people who don't follow politics or the movement of left-wing activists would go, what is going on? We're hearing all these reports about these record low spending habits of people. That there's some sort of economic blackout. I don't understand what's going on. And then they would learn, what it is that you want them to learn. And that's how powerful you are, how you are the ones actually in charge. And I would just love for those people to get together and have that after-action report. Say, all right, let's see what the results are. Actual spending up 9.1% over last year. Record amount of spending. Where do you go from there? Now, for the left, results don't matter unless you're trying to kill people. Then they celebrate that because that's a it's a pretty obvious result. You try to kill people, you succeed in killing people or burning down buildings, and you're like, look at what we did, and then they get online and celebrate it. But these efforts that are less violent, like demonstrating your economic impact, they don't really care about results. This is similar to their policy approach on everything. We're going to raise taxes on the rich because that's going to help the poor. Never does. But it doesn't matter if you don't care about results. We're going to have stricter gun laws because that's going to make things safer. Doesn't work. But what do you care? Because results are irrelevant. We need to spend more money on education because that's going to make children more educated. Doesn't work that way. But heck, that doesn't matter because those are results. Well, we need to spend more to fight poverty, to lift people out of poverty, to close the income gap. That doesn't work either. But if you're on the left, results don't matter. And so the fact that this economic blackout not only did not work, but ultimately there was record spending levels will not stop them from announcing another one sometime in the future. Just as this was not the premier economic blackout, but one of many that have failed and will continue to fail. Because for the left, much like a man is a woman and a woman is a man, failure apparently is also success. Back to the Samantha Fulnecke thing and the left's attack on her. You know what else just increases their fury about her? She's an attractive young lady.
Oh, yeah.
They can't stand pretty girls. As they clearly go to great efforts to demonstrate through their own appearances. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. We got just a little taste of winter yesterday, and the cold is really starting to creep in, especially at nighttime. If you are experiencing issues with your heating system, don't wait until a major repair pops up. Make sure you remember Russell and his crew over at Foreman Mechanical for all of your HVAC needs. Now, the Foreman team, they can do anything from annual preventative maintenance, inspections, service repairs, to new unit installs, plus a whole lot more. And they have an emergency service line, by the way, in case something pops up after those normal business hours. I do also want to remind you that Russell is expanding his team, so if you are in the HVAC industry and you are looking for a change of pace, make sure to submit your application. They're locally owned, family owned, and all around awesome. If it's time to have the Foreman team out to your home or you want to submit your application, you can do both of those things at foremanmechanical.com. And of course, you can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Big Friday coming up. We've got a Heroes Breakfast in the morning at Scramblers. Then in the afternoon, we will have a holiday happy hour with our friends at Vineyard Market. So we'd love for you to join us for that. Just a little mark it on your calendar. That's 4 to 6 in the afternoon. It's a come and go as you please. News in 60 seconds. Springfield's Talk 1041. Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is Nick Reed. Streaming live, KSGF.com, also YouTube. You can watch the show there if you would like, either in real time or afterwards. You can see archived. That's just Springfield's Talk 1041. You can find us over there. And podcast, we've got that, Spotify, iTunes, also the KSGF app. And KSGF.com. It feels as if that's all of the relevant info that you need. Other than a reminder, we are going to have our free Veterans Breakfast this Friday at Scramblers. That is off a week. You know, usually we have that the final Friday of the week. However, it's the first Friday of December this time around because of Black Friday. And so along with the Warrior's Journey, Delta Roofing and Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, and Scramblers, of course, free breakfast for veterans, and then our get-together, happy hour, special holiday version. What makes it special? It's the holidays, and we will be at Vineyard Market for that. Coming up, want to talk with someone that some of you may be familiar with. He's been on this program before, and he was in with, it was Kyle, wasn't he in with Kyle? Yeah, Kyle Wyatt, and I thought, oh, well, I'm going to steal that idea. And so John Stroop of Freeway Ministries is going to be joining us. And I like having him every so often, and it's been too long, just because I'm very big into meaningful efforts with meaningful results. So much of what we do to, quote, help people, oftentimes well-intended, we don't really concern ourselves with, are we actually helping people, as much as how good I feel about myself for helping people. And when there are organizations that prove to be successful in terms of really helping people, this is one of my absolute favorites. And so he's kind enough to come join us. We're going to chat with him in just a couple of moments. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see mostly cloudy skies with a high near 41. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 27. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 47. And taking a look at Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 33.
Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Want to welcome in studio John Stroop, Freeway Ministries, kind enough to free up some of his time. And I stole, I suppose, well, I didn't really steal from Kyle Wyatt, but I know you came in to do Kyle's show, and I was like, oh, I haven't really had you on the show in a while. And so been way too long. And one, I just like having you on, but what it is that you do and have done and continue to do, it's just, I think, so important for people to recognize, particularly when there's so many different organizations out there that that do things, and most of them are driven by people that just really want to do good. But I'm always just, maybe even too much, I worry about, well, does it work? Is this doing good? And I've always felt that you will fire on all cylinders in that capacity. And so I like people who don't know about you to know about you. And we could just, as we've done in the past, start from the beginning. And for folks that don't know who you are and how all this came to be, just tell us about it.
Well, the short kind of Reader's Digest version is basically I come from generational crime, addiction, and poverty, which means that everyone I've ever known was poor, a drug addict, or a criminal. Mostly all three. And so that's the culture I come from. Not blaming that culture for anything, because I knew right and wrong, and I chose to live a certain way. And my brothers were old enough to be my fathers. They were my crime partners. They taught me, what was good from their worldview and what was bad from their worldview. And they were the masculine males in my life. Grew up in prison visiting rooms. I visited them as a child. My whole life I was a single mom. And then my mom and I became crime partners. She did the best she could. I'm from Jeff City, Missouri. And she had two checks. One was a Social Security, one was a disability check. And then she had the bills in one hand, and the check and the bills didn't match. And so that's when we began. I began to sell drugs, and as a teenager, and she took care of the money. So we paid the bills that way. Quit school at 16. I was labeled as I had a behavior disorder. They give me a diagnosis as a kid, and so I ran with that badge, and I could do things no one else could do because I had a disorder. I was a bad kid.
So you quote, couldn't help it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's you hang a hat on it.
Sure.
And so I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was 16, quit school, sold drugs. Short period of time. In my 20s now. It's in the 90s. My brother Jimmy, he OD'd in St. Louis at 30, and then my mom died the year after that, and then my brother shot my other brother, and so everybody I knew was dead or in prison, and so I went from a drug dealer to a homeless drug addict, drug dealer / and then I just was a junkie. And so from my early 20s till I was 30 years old, I kind of wandered in the wilderness, used drugs, was really, really bad. I didn't hold a sign in the corner just because I didn't have enough courage to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I was better than them, but I was just that guy. And then went to prison, found a Bible, wanted to know what Jesus did with bad guys because I was one. And Romans 3 says there's none good, no, not one. And so there's none good, which is the best news a bad guy could ever hear.
Right.
But terrible news of people who think they're good, because the Bible says
so
there is
true.
none good.
So
and
true.
So that's my testimony. Got saved, gave my life to Jesus, asked him to use me like the drugs used me, give me a purpose, committed my life to him, and got out of prison, met some guys, came to Springfield, had a missionary pick me up from a program in Cuba, Missouri. He wrote me through my prison sentence. I got his address. His name was Dewey Houston. We were corresponding with each other. He helped me answer questions about the Bible, and he picked me up, brought me to Springfield. It was 2009. It was a recession. I was a convicted felon. I couldn't get a job. We got here, moved into 636 North Boonville Avenue, Salvation Army, Harbor House. Shout out to Salvation Army, great organization. And ended up getting a job, called into ministry, just wanted to help people like me. So in the long story short, we started a ministry in 2011, designated to reach a people group. So we see people who struggle with addiction, crime, and poverty, where I come from, as a people group They have their own culture. They have their own language. They have their own worldview. And so we're the missionaries to reach them. And so we started that ministry alongside Broadway Baptist Church, which is now Crossway Baptist Church, in 2011. 2012, we became a nonprofit. And I left my job at a restaurant. I was a single dad. I got custody of my son. He was 2.5 years old, from a homeless shelter in 2010. And he was 4 years old. And I went into full-time ministry. Met my wife in 2011, married her. We had a blended family. She had 2 teenagers. I had a 4-year-old. We got together and created this family unit, which was crazy and so hard and chaotic. And we were both in recovery, didn't know what we were doing, but we've been married 14 years today. And we have my wife is my best friend. We do ministry together. And so, yeah, that's the short, quick, fast end of the story.
When you say 14 years today, you mean actually today? This is your anniversary?
No.
Or you've been, okay, got it.
I wouldn't be here with you if it was my anniversary, Nick. No, it's April will be 14 years.
Do you? I imagine that you hear a lot of, well, here's why I can't. You don't understand. I mean, but you do. I mean, you've just everything, the obstacles that most people don't have to overcome. I suppose that gives you a little bit of leeway to say, yeah, I do know, and you can do this.
Yeah, we, today we have 13 ministries in 6 states. We're going to launch our 14th outreach in Somerset, Kentucky in January. We're in South Africa. We have 20 homes through the United States, 13 in Southern Missouri. We own the 13. We own 12 of those 13 properties by God's grace. And so we live in the greatest country in the world. I mean, if you're, I'm not trying to be mean, but if you're, here's the thing about a victim. Somebody has a victim mentality. You're going to get me on a soapbox. They have a laundry list of reasons why they're a victim, but they never tell you what they're going to do about it. And so for me, I received hope through Jesus Christ, and hope is a powerful thing. And I realized what God could do for me in my life was above and beyond all we could ever think, ask, or imagine. And I believe what the Bible says. And so he has proven himself faithful, Nick. And the only thing that I can tell you today is I'm a spectator. I'm watching God do all this in my life.
Yeah.
So
we're talking with John Stroop, Freeway Ministries. So the ministry itself, I imagine that to the average person, it would not be considered a traditional ministry. Explain that.
Well, so we have 2 aspects of what we do. I'm a ministry planter, and so I'm a preacher. And my heart is the heartbeat of Jesus: discipleship, evangelism, and missions. And so we do all 3 of those through the local church, and our mission is stateside, basically right now. Mm. And so we plant the ministry alongside the local church to do an evangelistic weekly outreach to reach this people group. And so we have food, we bust them in, we have childcare, we do everything church does. We have clothing, they can have, we help them, we minister to them, and then we share the gospel with them. And then we invite them to the local church. And then the Sunday morning comes, we have our outreach on Saturday. Sunday comes and we bring them to your church. Mm-hmm. We have a Sunday school class for them, and we disciple them and mature them up. And so that's step 1, is the planting the weekly outreach alongside the local church. And then step 2 is open up a residential home. So within 6 months to a year, we open up a 1-year-long residential home called the Discipleship House for people to come out of prisons, institutions, jails, off the street, out of your grandma's basement, mm-hmm. That 40-year-old son that won't get a job. Yeah. And so we disciple them and mentor them up. And so this is the world headquarters here in Springfield. So we intern them here when they graduate our 1-year-long residential program, and we train them and send them out as missionaries to other churches in other cities.
What do you believe is the reason that let me start off saying I think there are tons and tons of organizations that try to help people that are in the similar situation or the same situation as those that you try to help, but maybe they don't find the level of success that you do. What do you find to be the reason that you are able to do this at such a successful rate when others may not be able to?
That's a great question. So here, let's define our terms. What does success?
That's step 1.
What is
right?
success?
Yes.
So those organizations may tell you they are successful. and their success looks different than ours. So success for most recovery organizations, I will never talk negative about an
Right.
organization, even if I think they're a bad organization, because it's not edifying. It doesn't do any good. So I have my opinions about some. But success, you have to define your terms. So if success is sobriety, then there's lots of people that, and then you have to define what sobriety is. Because if sobriety is relapsing every once in a while, to me that's not sobriety.
Right.
And sobriety is not success, Nick, because success is being a fully obedient follower of Jesus Christ in discipleship, learning how to live, being a mature man and woman, being a pillar to society, not offending again, not using drugs or alcohol, not going back down that trail to where you're doing the same things you always done. That's success. And so, one, I would say this, as far as the residential side of things, you have to have a vetting system. So Jesus said in Matthew 7:13 and 14, he talked about two ways. There's a narrow way and there's a broad way. And then the word narrow in that section of scripture, it means compressed. It's hard. It's pressed together. It's not easy. He said it's hard. And so we vet people, and we don't take certain people who aren't willing to do the work before they get in the program. We make them do homework to get in. And so with that, and I can say this proudly, in 14 years of doing ministry, 13 years of doing residential homes, I have only had to call the police one time. I've never had anyone get a charge while I lived in our home. I've never had anyone overdose in any of our homes in 14 years.
Wow.
And I've never had anyone get in an altercation, a physical altercation. Never had a fight break out that I know of. They may have had dust up I didn't know about, but and so that is because of our vetting system. That is because of our high standard for making disciples.
I imagine the approach is a bit different when you have one location that you're at consistently, but as you expand, you can't be all places at one time. Is that challenging?
Absolutely. So if a church wants to do a freeway, I don't call churches and just start, hey, would you like to do
Right.
freeway ministries? I want to make sure the pastor can shepherd the missionary, because the people we send out, they're going to need somebody to teach them how to be a husband. They're going to need somebody to teach them how to be a wife. Somebody teach them. I need a mature pastor who can walk alongside, because I'm basically taking one of our kids, and I'm saying, here, he's yours now. She's yours. He's gonna go with you and be a part of your church. And for the next 3 years, they'll live there. They'll join that church. They'll reach that city. And so it is very difficult. We have had to pull some out of churches before. I tell them, if it's moral or ethical failure, you're not quitting. You're doing the right thing by leaving. And so, but we do a Zoom meeting once a month with all of our missionaries and directors, and that's good. And then they can call us anytime they want. We work with the pastors, but you got to realize, with all of those 13 locations, we also inherit the 13 churches problems. And so I'm constantly,
Sure.
because this person's going to be a staff member at that church now. And most of them are in Bible college, and so the pressure and the conflict and the issues with the deacons and the problems in the body, all that's going to be coming here too. And so it is trying.
We're talking with John Stroop, Freeway Ministries. So I'm one of these types of people that, when it comes to offering help, be it financially or with my time and effort, I find myself, and maybe even sometimes, overly particular, because, again, I want it to be meaningful. People who are listening that have that same perspective, and they hear what you're doing, and they would like to help out in some way, what sort of things do you look for?
Yeah, as far as someone who wants to volunteer.
Yeah, volunteer, or just anything, like any area that can help enhance what it is that you're doing. What are those things?
Okay, well, that's a broad
it is.
question. There's lots of things people can do. First, we vet them. I want to make sure the person that's coming is not a threat. I want to make sure we had to do a background check on them. We have a code of ethics that they sign. Basically, it says they're going to live a certain way outside of the ministry. And so we have senior adults that take our people to court. They have a court case in Jasper County. They have a court case in Texas County, and it's going to be during the workday. And so we'll have, like, if it's a woman, we'll have a woman that will pick that girl up and take her to court and just love on her and spend time with her and sit with her. We'll have a man who will do the same for some of our men. Everybody gets a mentor after the first 30 days is our goal. Sometimes it's a little longer to walk them through the basic principles and disciplines of the Word of God. So we have 14 lessons that we have a person, walk and meet outside the local church and just for an hour a week and just love on them and minister to them. We look for mentors. We have volunteer areas. We have a bus ministry. We bus in sometimes 75 people on a Saturday night. Every Saturday we have between 350 and 400 that come. We feed them. We have a child care area from babies to 18-year-old kids. All these are at-risk kids, high-risk kids and families. We have a restaurant kitchen where we cook their meals every Saturday night. We have a clothing department where we give clothing away. We don't charge them. We don't smash it up and sell it to Haiti. We give it to the community, and people come do that. We have a worship team. We have security needs. We have you name it. We're opening a community center. We're going to need mentors for that. So there's a ton of stuff people can do.
Anything else that you just want to relay to folks while we have you this morning?
Well, there's hope. There's a lot of people. I talked to a guy last night who's a dad. His son's in Cincinnati, Ohio, strung out on cocaine, and he was going to drive last night in the snowstorm to Cincinnati. This elderly man to find his son, and he didn't even know where he was. And his brother called me. His brother's name's Warren, and he serves in our ministry, a senior adult. And he said, "Will you talk to my brother?" And I accidentally answered the phone. It was my day off. I had family time, and I hit it with my cheek. And and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And so I said, "Warren, let's talk." And so I got to talk to this dad last night. His name is Roger, and pray with him and encourage him and just let him know that what rock bottom looks like. And at the end of the phone call, he realized he's not going to drive to the snowstorm to Cleveland. It's Cleveland, Ohio. And so there's hope. There's people listening to the sound of my voice that have given up on people. I would encourage them not to give up. That if God can restore my life and thousands of others, He can restore your son's life.
I've always thought the perspective of people who aren't Christians can be the opposite of those who are, in the sense that people on the outside, I think, oftentimes see Christianity as being confining. That, have to follow these rules, and all of this sudden my life becomes constricted. But once you truly get it and have that relationship, it's so liberating, to me anyhow. Like all of these things that once upon a time you confined yourself to emotionally and worried about, and these emotional struggles, and suddenly you're so liberated. If that makes sense.
Yeah. When I look outside and see a fence, I can say, well, that's to keep me in, or I can say that's to keep things out. It depends on how I'm looking at it. But boundaries are important. And God, I'm not a Christian because I'm a good person. There's lost people that are sometimes nicer than me. I'm a Christian because God is good, and He died on a cross and rose again for my sins. And so my faith in Him gives me the motivation and the love to serve Him and to honor Him. And so, yeah.
People want more information. Freeway Ministries, the website.
Yeah, freeway-ministries.com.
And we'll get that up as well. And we'll have to make sure that you visit us again before however long it's been since I last had you on. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for letting me hang.
John Stroop, Freeway Ministries, everyone. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozark's first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see mostly cloudy skies with a high near 41. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 27. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 47. And taking a look at Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 33. And the Pyramid Roofing Company, we just got a little taste of winter yesterday, and we all know that more is going to be right around the corner. That is why now is the perfect time to call the Pyramid Roofing Company and get your roof checked before winter really has a chance to expose any problems. They use high quality materials on every job, and they always install ice and water shield in the eaves and the valleys. Now, I always mention that because not all roofing companies do that, but those are kind of the most common areas that wear down first, so they really do just want to give your roof a little extra protection. If you want to get a checkup on your roof before winter really hits, reach out to Josh and schedule a free roof inspection. And if it is time to have a roof replacement, the Pyramid team, they offer discounts for our military and our first responders on new roof installs. So if it is time to have the Pyramid team out to your home, reach out to Josh today. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
The Democrats are accustomed to finding themselves exposed to corruption, and they generally are able to escape any sort of accountability, partially because they're just very brazen about it as a party. Once upon a time, they weren't. And at one point, they figured out, if we just accept this is who we are, we think that our supporters will as well. And this is an evolution that took place over a period of time. I don't think the Democrat Party was at that level of corruption during the 80s. And I think an example of that is the fact, again, I used this as an example the other day. Joe Biden ran for president, and when it was revealed that he plagiarized and, some of his papers and lied about his placement in schools, he was forced to drop out. And you juxtapose that to some of the hilariously absurd lies that get told by Democrat candidates today. And I don't know. I honestly do not believe there is a lie that a high-profile elected Democrat or a high-profile Democrat running for elected office could get caught telling that Democrats would find disqualifying. I don't think that there is one any longer. Gary Hart would have been another example. He was a Democrat senator, I believe, Massachusetts perhaps, and he was really considered to be the hot new ticket in the Democrat Party, comparisons to the Kennedys, and he was accused of fooling around, having an affair, and he very publicly denied it and challenged journalists. I think it was one in particular. Follow me around if you don't believe me. Well, one journalist took him up on that offer and discovered that he was fooling around. And, again, this is how different the Democrat Party was then. Democrat voters rejected. They're like, no, you lied to us, to our face. You insulted us by lying to us, and that's not what we want. Well, you look at that versus the party today, in which they chose to believe Joe Biden was cognitively fit. That being said, every so often, a Democrat draws the short straw and gets caught up in a scandal that, for perhaps a number of different reasons, doesn't just go away. Right now, we're sitting on the fence whether or not Tim Walz is going to escape the massive amount of fraud that he is accused of, at the very least, being aware of, that had been occurring in his state while he was governor. and the fact that over 400 government workers are whistleblowers on this one. We're not talking one or two people that the media can dismiss as Trump supporters or look up their campaign donations and find out that they donated to Republicans, and so we can automatically dismiss them because they're right-wing MAGA people. We're talking about hundreds of government bureaucrats. The House Oversight Committee and the U.S. Treasury have both launched investigations into Waltz's involvement in the massive fraud scheme where Somali immigrants stole more than $1 billion from state taxpayers and funneled it to terrorists. Billion to terrorists. Which it was noted, just in terms of actual dollars, the number one the number one source of revenue for the Al-Shabaab terrorist organization were the taxpayers of Minnesota, American taxpayers, or Minnesotan taxpayers. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, a Republican from Kentucky, told the New York Post that his panel, quote, will conduct a thorough investigation into Waltz's failure to safeguard taxpayer dollars. Quote, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz was warned about massive fraud in a pandemic food aid program for children, yet he failed to act. Instead, whistleblowers who raised concerns were the ones who faced retaliation. Because of Governor Walz's negligence, criminals, including Somali terrorists, stole nearly $1 billion from the program while children suffered. The investigation could lead to criminal charges, as Comer can issue subpoenas and refer alleged crimes to the Department of Justice for prosecution. The DOJ has already convicted 59 people involved in the scheme. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent also announced an investigation into the same scheme by the U.S. Treasury. Writing on X, at my direction, the Treasury is investigating allegations that under the feckless mismanagement of the Biden administration and Governor Tim Walz, hardworking Minnesotans' tax dollars may have been diverted to the terrorist organization Al-Shabaab. Thanks to the leadership of POTUS, Donald Trump, we are acting fast to ensure Americans' taxes are not funding acts of global terrorism. We will share our findings as our investigation continues. A whistleblower X account claiming to be a group of 500 employees working for Minnesota Department of Human Resources torched Walz on Saturday, alleging he 100% was responsible for the fraud. Now, the approach that Tim Walz has thus far tried to take is that, well, if I find out that anyone breaks the law, boy, you just wait. I'm going to make sure they're in jail. The problem he's facing are all these whistleblowers who are saying, you've known about it for years. Not only did you know about it, but you retaliated against those of us who came to you seeking to fix the problem. Greg Jarrett, evaluating this, asked about the situation on Fox News.
What do you make of this? Nearly 500 state workers accused him, Walz, of retaliating against whistleblowers, of incompetence and not acting on fraud warnings, saying he's 100% responsible. Have you ever seen state workers publicly slam a governor like this and telling Kamala Harris, don't pick him as your running mate? Have you ever seen this?
No, I mean, this is a first. But look, is anybody really surprised that the largest COVID fraud scandal happened under Tim Walz, the guy who famously admitted during the vice presidential debate that he's a knucklehead? Well, this proves it. What's so shocking, as you point out, Liz, is the accusers are hundreds of his own state workers who say he's 100% responsible for fleecing $1 billion from taxpayers. You know, this is beyond incompetence by the governor. It extends into the realm of intentional malfeasance. He did this deliberately. Evidence shows he was told of the fraud early on, refused to stop it. He allegedly aided and abetted the schemes, retaliating against whistleblowers, trying to discredit the fraud reports. So if all of this is true, and I suspect it is, the question is, why would he do it? Well, the answer is, he was currying favor with the large Somali community where the fraud was largely happening. He was turning a blind eye for political gain.
What also is not working in Tim Walz's favor here is the fact that the New York Times finally did a piece on this as well, and it clearly cannot be dismissed as some sort of right-wing hit piece, being the New York Times. I would like to see, and I suspect this may be an area in which the Treasury Department and its investigation can come into play, is how much of that money that Tim Walz was allowing to get funneled through fraud to the Somali community was coming back to his campaign. Were we seeing a significant degree of that? So in other words, Tim Walz is allowing these dollars to be fraudulently funneled to people that in turn were writing checks to him for his campaign. Or heck, who knows, what for other purposes perhaps as well. That may be an area in which the Treasury Department is able to make some very interesting discoveries that will be very difficult for him, again, to escape. One of the challenges that he has here is the fact that Democrats are dealing with a midterm, and one of the things that they don't want to be dealing with is defending him. You have Amy Klobuchar, who has run for president in the past, in all likelihood is going to run for president again as a Democrat. This is her state. I'm sure she doesn't want to be defending him. Is there going to be some point in which they stop not only defending him, but decide to actually turn on him to prove that they're against this sort of fraud, this sort of waste of taxpayer dollars, this sort of danger to our national security by funneling tax dollars to terrorists? Regardless of political party, they put what's right and the taxpayers above partisan politics and above their own party if necessary. That's what Tim Walz might have to worry about. You know, I have made the point when it comes to Democrats' efforts and whom it is that benefits from those efforts on numerous occasions, and the consistency in which those that benefit are bad guys. They're the criminals. The people who don't respect our laws, who want to come into this country illegally. And even if it's an area in which you think, well, maybe they have a point, they always fall on the side of the bad guy, the narco-terrorists, the drug traffickers, the illegal aliens who beat their wives and have to have restraining orders put against them. They hold press conferences to hold these people in high esteem. When Gavin Newsom out in California signs into law dropping the penalties for stealing from stores, who do you think that benefits, the store owner or the criminal? And now here, yet again, you've got a Democrat governor who is a former vice presidential candidate, and you got fraud going on, and who is benefiting? Terrorists. Every time somebody comes out ahead because of efforts of the left in this country, they are bad guys. Even if it's not domestically. The Taliban got Afghanistan out of Joe Biden, and Biden, if he and Kamala Harris had had their way, Hamas would have had their own country. And here you've got Al-Shabaab apparently finding its number one fundraiser is the government of Minnesota, taking money out of its own citizens' tax or paychecks and funneling it to them. Is there any instance in which the policies or the decisions in modern history made by Democrats benefit someone that's not the bad guy? If so, the list is short. Oh, speaking of, this story coming up, going to take a quick break. Gavin Newsom's minimum wage hike cost California thousands of fast food jobs and sent prices soaring. which, of course, who does that hit hardest? The lower and middle income people. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Christopher says, we highly recommend Emily, House Theory Realty, for any of your home buying or selling needs. She and her team did a fantastic job in helping us relocate from the West Coast to find our new home in Branson. With relocating and taking on a new position, plus a crazy schedule, my wife being on the West Coast, coming out for quick in and out trips, adding very specific must-have for our new home, Emily made the process extremely easy and a pleasure. Thank you for everything you did. We are very happy in our new home. You know, this is one of her Facebook reviews, and one of the nice things about those reviews in particular is you can click on the person and you can message them if you want to ask them any specific questions like, hey, did you really have this experience? These are all real people who are either now or well, they are now, always have been, or perhaps moved into the 417 area. And like my relatively limited experience with Emily, or those that have had more long-term and arduous searches for new homes or looking to sell theirs, you get the same sort of consistent feedback that she is the absolute best. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Now, I was going to jump over to the Gavin Newsom story here, but I wanted to share this with you in talking about how Democrat policies in modern history always benefit the bad guy. U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement Director Todd Lyons has issued an explosive letter to New York Attorney General Letitia James demanding immediate action after state and local officials released nearly 7,000 criminal illegal aliens that included rapists, killers, gang members, and repeat violent offenders without honoring ICE detainers and without a single notification of federal authorities. Released into the community. Now, you hear the consistent rhetoric that they're not going after criminals. The Trump administration's not going after criminals. Well, there's more for them to go after now that New York Democrats released 7,000 of them into the community, including connection to 29 separate homicides, 2,500 assaults, 199 burglaries, 305 robberies, 392 dangerous drug offenses, 300 weapons offenses, and 207 sexual predatory offenses. And in addition, there's another 7,113 criminal aliens in New York custody today, all with active ICE detainers that New York Democrats continue to ignore. And so those individuals will also be released into the community. So you got rapists, you have murderers, you have drug dealers, you have child abusers directly benefiting from Democrat policy. Again, it's always the bad guy. So I love these stories side by side because it shows that with Democrats in charge, their policies, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Gavin Newsom's minimum wage hike cost California thousands of fast food jobs. And so what happened is you had 19,000 jobs. Average, hardworking people go away. Many of those that still kept their jobs saw their hours shrink, which meant a smaller paycheck. Meanwhile, Gavin Newsom winning early enthusiasm from Hollywood donors ahead of 2028. The rich elite are lining up to try and make Gavin Newsom governor of California, while the middle and lower class continue to lose jobs.